Hi, it's me again. Who else would it be? It's my YouTube channel. Oh, I woke up the poor baby. I'm sorry. Loki's very sleepily blinking at me. Oh, he's joining us, which is perfect because it's Halloween or Samhain. So happy Halloween, blessed Samhain. It is not a Christian holiday at all. That's our day. Sorry, but it's ours. Anyway, obviously, because it's Halloween, I had to come on and say hello. Um, I also got to run around Gettysburg with my one sister earlier today, and it did not even cross my mind until I was back home taking off my shoes that I was just like, oh, I could have vlogged that. But I didn't, because it was more special to me to just run around uninhibited, you know? Ooh, excuse me. So that was a lot of fun. Encountered some dead folk, but they're just dead. That's they're probably all sorts of grouchy right now because you got tourists coming over and tapping on the ghostly aquarium going, "Hey, move." So, fun times. Um we were at Sachs Bridge cuz Little Round Top and the Devil's Den are both closed for there's some like landscape reconstruction and whatnot. Um, because it is, a very often visited, hello, historical monuments. So of course they do need construction on them every once in a while. And yes, I do have my hair in piggies. Well, part of it anyway. I have enough that I can leave some down too. And I look adorable. No, I will not be taking her criticisms because I'm adorable. And because I think so, it doesn't really matter what other people think. It's my appearance. Right, babies? Yeah. I don't think my mic's picking it up, but he is purring and sniffing my hairline. Do I smell good? But yeah, it turns out that oh my goodness, I have the snuggliest cat in the world. Yes, I do. I do. You are so snuggly. I love you. Um, but it turns out that I take after my mom in that we are like spirit repellent. Whether or not you believe in ghosts is your own book. Obviously I do. Um, they just kind of exist. It's just a fact of life for me. It's not really a question. Um, but I cannot see them. I just kind of sense them, and occasionally I'll get like a mental image. So then that leaves me wondering, like, is it my overactive imagination or is it witchcraft? I don't know. I kind of believe the latter, but there's a little bit of everything going on. Anyway, but saw some spooks in my head, vibed some spooks. But what I meant with me being repellent like my mom, I like to call it ghost stink. 'Cause, you smell bad, don't go near her. Um, is I didn't sense anything until, well, I was also really giddy and not paying attention, but I had to pull in my aura to very, very short leash to start feeling anybody. It's like they wouldn't come out at all. And I was just like, oh crap. Yeah, because my sister wanted to go see. She basically wanted to go ghost hunting, and I was just like, they're not gonna do much of anything. Although the one guy in the water near the bridge he was grouchy. But like I said, when people are just coming up onto like you're just trying to mind your own business, people are coming up knocking on your window like, hey, that would make you grumpy. Um, someone is texting me. If I get another text, I'll understand it's probably my mother because she does that. Um, But yeah, no, it was a lot of fun. We went to Dairy Queen afterwards because we should have gone to the ice cream place in town that's really good, but we my sister didn't decide until we were like nearly at Dairy Queen that she wanted ice cream, and I can't drive, so I was at her mercy of choice there. Right, babies? But yeah, no, I've been in a good mood all day, which is hilarious given how thin the veil is right now. Um, I'll take it, you know. I'm not gonna between, winter coming and just getting a going back into the retail workforce and stressful home situations and everything and just how life has been lately. I'll just take some cheerful energy. I don't care if it's explained or not. I don't care. I'm having a good day, and by God, I'm going to enjoy it. Um, but something I just remembered the other day, after I did my vlog from the other day, last week, I realized that I didn't talk about Hadestown. I actually, someone who watched some of my earlier vlogs, uh, Deb, I forget the numbers on their username, but they had commented on one of my Greek mythology videos or talking about Olympians that I might enjoy the musical Hadestown. And I kind of put that in my little box of maybe I'll check that out one day. I actually did finally check it out. Um it was very interesting. I remember the first song I wasn't sure if I would enjoy it or not, but I just didn't click off because I was just like, you can't judge it on the first song, you should actually, at least sit 20 minutes in. And at that point, I was too curious to stop at that point. Um, and he's off. Okay, cool. But yeah, no, because well, for one, I didn't really understand how to pronounce Eurydice. Eurydice. Obviously, growing up, I always called her Eurydice or like Eurydice or something like that. I didn't say Eurydice. So it was really interesting to me to visually hear her name pronounced. Visually? Um, sorry, just checking what my mom texted. Um, anyway, yeah, no, it was definitely not what I expected. I think I said that like twice already. Because it was, when I hear musical, I think there's going to be songs interspaced between talking bits, but there were basically no talking bits. It was pretty much all song. Um, I mean, there were some talking, like, but it was like a part of the song talking to me. That was very interesting. I can't deny I was intrigued, which, given the nature of the mythology of Orpheus, it makes sense that it was just kind of like that kind of oh, sorry, that kind of musical. Uh, or yeah, no, I can't think of another word to describe it. But I was also really intrigued by the kind of like it seemed almost set in like the Great Depression era, that or I'm not great at history. I did not do that great in social studies class. Well, I was a gifted kid, so I got A's and B's and occasional C, but social studies was never my strong suit. So I definitely screw up. Um, I'm definitely going to mix up a few dates and eras here, but Hadestown seems to be set. I don't want to say 20s. That's why I'm kind of targeting 30s, and I know 30s is about when the Great Depression was, because it was like right on the tail end of the Roaring 20s, which was rather ironic when you think about it. But yeah, so yes, I was just making that noise. I wasn't calling you over. Loki's staring at me 'cause I make noises like that to attract his attention. I'm sorry. You're cute. Good boy. Um, ooh, excuse me. But it's set in that kind of time period, and there's this, I guess, this interpretation of Hades that he's this like, um, what's the words I'm looking for? Oh my God, I'm so sorry. Like this coal or oil. I keep wanting to say monarch, but I know that's wrong. It's not oligarch. Um, I know the exact word that I want, but it's not. It's like just dancing right out of reach. I can't remember. But yeah, the tycoon. There we go. It's just this like oil and coal tycoon. Tycoon's not quite the right word either, but it's that kind of thing. Whereas just he's owns factories and stuff. And that's part of why he's so rich, because obviously in Greek mythology, Hades is lord of everything underground, which includes all the precious stones and metals. So that's why he is the rich boy. But it was just a very interesting interpretation of his character, and then as Persephone's, who was kind of like this very party hardy woman and seemed to always, she almost seemed like she, to me, she seemed kind of like an alcoholic, like she was just trying to party it up and mentally escape the time she spends with her husband. But then it's spoken of many times that they had this great love and that they did love each other. And then when I look at the original myth, I'm like, did they though? Like, I know everybody loves the Hades and Persephone's myth and they love to romanticize it, and I'm like, he kidnapped a much younger woman, specifically his niece, to marry against her will because his brother said that he could do it. And depending on which myth you read, Zeus is also Persephone's father. So, that is some serious incest because Demeter is their sister. So, like, woo. I mean, granted, the entirety of Greek mythology is far more inbred than any family in the southern United States. I'm sorry, I said it. I understand that there's this big incest stereotype for the southern United States, and I'm like, no, mythology is way more incesty than humans. That and European royalty. I said what I said. Anywho, ignoring the inbreeding of Greek mythology, which we all like to do anyway. Ignore it, I mean. Anyway, no, I did enjoy Hades Town. It did leave me feeling weird inside, kind of like a Studio Ghibli film does. Just, I don't know how to explain it. It's like, it's this weird space between melancholy and catharsis. Um, Moulin Rouge does this to me too, because, like, technically it's a sad ending, but at the same time, you're like, it's a tragedy, of course. You went in knowing it was a tragedy. I mean, if you're any bit familiar with the mythology of Orpheus and Eurydice, you are familiar with the fact that it is a tragic story. Um, So when you get to the end, it's obviously it's sad, he almost got his wife out of hell basically, and then he had just the last moment of doubt where he just wasn't certain that she was behind him because he couldn't hear her and she couldn't hear him. The so so he looked back, and that's completely understandable. I mean, I see a lot of I've seen a lot of criticism of the Orpheus myth, being like, well, if I was Orpheus, I just wouldn't turn around. It's, wouldn't you? Wouldn't you? I mean, I think it's a lot harder than we all perceive it to be. Like, it's when you're removed from that sort of situation, it's easy to be like, well, RIP to Orpheus, but I'm not an idiot. But Orpheus is somebody, I think, who is very much ruled by his emotions and passions. So it is natural that he would feel so much doubt and fear and worry. And so naturally, he looked behind him to see if Eurydice was keeping up with him or even there at all, and that he hadn't been tricked after all, because he's making deals with the Greek gods. Like, I'm sorry, if you're anything even vaguely familiar with deities and fairies and just basically being ethereal beings of great power, and you're going to try to make a deal with them, you always have to be worried. I'm sorry, but that's just the way it is. Like, if you're dealing with something much more powerful than you're looking for the strings. You're looking behind you. Because it is way too easy for beings of great power to abuse that power, especially if that's what they're used to. Um, and they don't like having their heartstrings pulled. And they did especially address this in Hades Town, which I liked and I thought it was very interesting, was the fact that Orpheus was Orpheus and Eurydice were doing something that was never done before, which was extracting her from the underworld. Obviously, you know, if Hades can't just let them go, say, okay, yeah, you can have her, that's fine, because then, like, what's stopping everyone else? Like, well, if they can do it, why can't we? And then you have the whole system of death just backwards, which obviously is a problem. Part of life is death. Sorry, Loki just scratched himself and he's got his ears kind of back and his eyes all bugged out. So, normal cat face scratching, well, chin scratching. Um, but obviously, Hades was more or less rooting for them because they helped his marriage with Persephone in the show. Um, in the mythology, it's just Orpheus's music moved him, and in the show, it helped him remember his heart, like the whys instead of just the hows and the whats. But um, yeah, no, they straight up addressed the you can't just let him go, but you can't say no. So that's why he did the price, if you look back, we keep her. So that way it's on them, but it's also a little bit still on you because you made that, but you if you let him go, you're a little bitch. And obviously everyone can do that. Anyway, um I also really liked the interpretation of Eurydice. Obviously in the original myth, she had basically no personality. Like she was just a wife who died right after being married. That was Eurydice's big claim to fame, is that she just kind of died. So it was nice to see kind of a bit more of a personality to her, specifically that she was just somebody who has seen and heard way and experienced just way too much in the amount of time that she's been alive. And just that she has that harder edge to her that Orpheus was able to break through. This is gonna sound mean, but like by being a pushy weirdo. Um, I feel this way about Christian from Moulin Rouge too, is that like, yes, you're a nice dude, like we know that, but you are being way too pushy. That's just something that bothers me, is when they're like, I'm attracted to you. So I assume you're attracted to me, so I'm not going to take no for an answer, and I'm just going to keep pushing you until you see it my way. That's one thing I don't particularly like. You know, I am drawing a lot of parallels between Christian and Satine in Moulin Rouge and the myth of Orpheus and Eurydice. Is this, you know, artistically gifted young man wins over a jaded and cynical woman who unfortunately perishes, and he has to live with that. Granted, Orpheus doesn't, but they don't cover that part in Hades Town. Um, anyway, but the one thing I really liked in Hades Town was just that Eurydice was almost always accompanied with or by the Fates. Like the three Fates were usually singing backup for her, and I thought that was really interesting. Before she went to Hades Town slash died, um, which it was interesting that they kind of interpreted Eurydice's death instead as going to work for Hades and basically sign her soul over to him in exchange for food and shelter and warmth. And that's really interesting to me because, like, instead of the mythological snake bite that felled her, there was this implication that she starved to death instead. And I thought that was very obviously intriguing to me because, I mean, for the, and it fits with the Great Depression theme that I see because, as they say like 15 different times in the play or musical, it's Orpheus was a poor boy or a poor man, or he was not a rich man. Basically the point they made was Orpheus is broke as shit, but he was a lover. He was a lover and a poet, and he made some vainglorious boasts that he owned up to in the end. But there was so much to cover that they didn't really get into them falling in love. But it was just like it was very like I wasn't going into it for a believable relationship because I already knew the myth and everything. It was just I expected it. Um, I didn't particularly expect it to go the way it did, or like the phrasing and everything. Because well, that's the main part of Hades Town, I think, is that the delivery was so different from I expected. And that's what fascinates me the most. I did enjoy the music. The first number, not as much, and I feel a little bit bad for that, but like, I did enjoy a lot of the music. And it was, like I said, it was just all very fascinating to me because it was not what I was expecting. Granted, most of the musicals I'm familiar with is like Wicked and a lot of Star Kids musicals. Obviously Disney, a lot of your classic stuff where it's half a movie. It's like a movie with songs every now and then instead of like I almost want to say like an opera, but I've never seen an opera, but like that kind of operatic epic in a way, like an epic poem or something. Again, referencing something that I've never actually seen in person. But it was just, yeah, no, Deb, you were right. I did like Hades Town. I, I don't know when I'll watch it again because it feels like something I'm going to be in have to be in a very specific mood to watch. But then I don't necessarily have to watch it if I just look up the soundtrack. Then I just listen to it because they don't really have, unfortunately, with a lot of Broadway and big musicals like that, they don't really have a good video of it on YouTube or, excuse me, probably on the internet in general. So what I did end up finding was a bit of a Frankenstein video. Like there was a lot of clips knitted together and fitted to the soundtrack, I think. Like it wasn't the live audio most of the time. That worked out fine. I got the gist of it because obviously I'm probably not going to ever be able to experience it live because New York, that's, at least a 4-hour drive. Um, and also I'm poor. Orpheus was not a rich man, nor am I. Um, right, Loki? No, he's just in a little ball. I love him. I'm gonna take a picture. I have a million pictures of this cat, and I'm still gonna take more because he is the apple of my eye. And yeah, this is what you all came to this channel for. Uh, This is peak content. Me taking a picture of my cat. Oh, and he looked at me last second. Oh, baby. Oh, do I need to take another picture of you? I think I do. He wasn't looking at me before. I thought he was sleeping. However, he could sleep through my voice. Oh, what a defiant little look. Oh, so sleepies. Thank you, baby. Thank you for the pictures. Sorry, I always try to say thank you to the cats when they let me take a like when I get a good picture of them. um, but yeah, no, Hadestown is very interesting to watch and listen to. I kind of wish I had known what I was getting into, but I didn't research it. I just watched it. Or let me tell the truth, it sat in my watch queue for like several months and then I finally watched it. Because I'm the type of person where if I recommend something to someone and they say, okay, I'll check it out. And then, nothing ever happens. And I was just like, well, that's sad. I don't want to be that kind of person. So I do try to actually follow through on well, that sounds interesting. I'll check it out. If it does legitimately sound interesting to me. I think I said to Infinite Fruit before that I would kind of like to check out One Punch Man, and I'm still on the fence about whether or not that's true. Because, like, on one hand, it looks funny and interesting, but on the other hand, I'm lazy. Like, I'm probably not going to want to watch the dub. Like, if there's an English dub, I'm probably not going to want to watch that. But if I do the Japanese sub, or the English sub of the Japanese audio, that means I have to actively watch it, which means I have to make time for it. And then there's when I have the time versus when I have the like mood to want to watch it. And a lot of this just sounds like excuses of say like trying to talk my way out of, well, I don't want to watch it. But the real answer is I don't know if I want to watch it or read it. Because obviously reading it's going to be much more involved than watching it. What I really could do is see if the library system has it and try to I'm sorry, I make that noise while I'm thinking. I'm sorry. I'll give you some treaties later. because it's Halloween. Um, yeah, no, one thought is I could see if the library system has them and borrow them from the library and read the manga. Um, I don't know. I'll be completely honest, I don't know. Um, I watched some I watched two new things this month. I can take a break and rewatch and reread all sorts of stuff. I did also give a new book series a try that my sister's all about. It's the From Blood and Ash series. I started reading the second book and I want to say maybe halfway through, maybe not quite. And I just stopped and I'm like, it's just too horny. It's too horny for me. I don't want to read it anymore. Like, the Mortal Instruments is definitely horny on main, but like, there's still enough. Like, there's still I can still read them. This was just like I just had to put it down because I was just like, it's specifically the main character's love interest is basically a vampire, and he was going to feed off of her for his own necessity, and he had his buddy there to spot, make sure nothing went wrong. And for some reason, well, probably because the author is into vampires, let's say it real, the vampire bite moment makes him like super horny. So they basically ended up like dry humping while pinning the buddy to the wall. And obviously, because it's a erotic fiction fantasy series, or basically it's like one of those horny mommy porns from the grocery. Well, it's not a mommy porn from the grocery store. I will put it that way because it's an actual book series. But like I said, horny on main, and instead of being embarrassed, awkward, or just like, why did you guys do that to me? The best friend was basically into it. And it's like, yeah, no, that's about when I decided I can't read any more of this because I'm like, you can't even, like, this guy, he can't, he has to be horny too. I know I've said the word horny like 15 times already, but like that's the word for the book. Like there's not even like a polite way of saying it. It is just horn on main. So yeah, no, at that point, I was just like, okay, I'm done. That, and she's like, you know what? I'm already at half an hour. I'm not going to complain about the new book series. Um, but yeah, no, it's just the decision making of the protagonist that I'm not into. And yeah, so I did try a new book series, and nah, brah, cadabra. Um, but yeah, no, I did. But on the plus side, I liked Hadestown. And like I said before, I really loved Nerdy Prudes Must Die. I keep listening to that. I've watched it like 4 times already. Oh, I love Star Kid though. Star Kid Productions. I specifically listened to The Summoning today because it's Halloween. And if you're gonna listen to any song off the Nerdy Prudes Must Die album, you should listen to The Summoning on Halloween at least. Um, Now then, it is 7 o'clock for me, and I have to feed myself and the cats. And I also am planning on watching two of my favorite movies, and perfect for Halloween is Practical Magic, Sandra Bullock and Nicole Kidman. Oh, it smells like the shed, which is to say cigarette smoke. I lent it to my mom. And also The Craft, which Feruza Balk, Robin Tunney, Neve Campbell, and Rachel True. Those are the four main characters. Not the character names, but the actresses. Um, but yeah, no, I got a pair of witch movies. I watched Kiki's Delivery Service earlier this month, so no third witch movie, but that's okay. Um, I got two to see me through the evening. I'm also gonna light some candles because the veil is thin as fuck, and it's Halloween. So I hope you all have a lovely Halloween. Uh, Stay safe out there, and don't poke the bear. Alrighty. Happy Halloween, blessed Samhain, and goodbye.